Hi, today I want to talk to you about God's money. And if you haven't listened to my video entitled The Money Quiz, pause this one and go over and take the money quiz. And when you get done with that, come back and we'll take it up where I left off because I left this part out of it and it's kind of deserves separate attention anyway. So, if you watched the money quiz or you came back just now having watched the video, the money quiz, let's go back to that verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 19. It says, "A feast is made for laughter, and wine makes merry, but money answers everything." And I pointed out that the New International Version actually says money is the answer to everything. Okay? And you've listened to that video and you understand where I'm coming from on that. But the thing that I did not point out when I made that one was that the Hebrew word in verse 19 is not money, it's silver. It literally says silver answers everything. So it's not talking about, when we think of money, we think of Federal Reserve notes. I grew up with those. But that's not what God was talking about. And that was certainly not what God was saying is an answer to everything. Ecclesiastes, no, Haggai, chapter 2, verse 6 tells us, and I believe this is a time in our near future, but it's definitely at the time it was written, a future thing. "For thus says Yahweh of hosts, once more, it is a little while," that's in parentheses. Once more, he's saying, in a little while, "I will shake heaven and earth, the sea and the dry land. And I will shake all nations, and they shall come to the desire of all nations. And I will fill this temple with glory, says Yahweh of hosts. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, says Yahweh of hosts. The glory of this latter temple shall be greater than the former, says Yahweh of hosts. And in this place I will give shalom, says Yahweh of hosts." Now, they were rebuilding the temple at the time that Haggai was impressed by the Lord to give this message. But he's actually talking about a future time. And he's saying that God's going to shake the nations. I believe we're headed into that. The shaking is already occurring. It's going to be a glorious time. And one of the things that Yahweh points out in the context of this is it's going to involve money. Now, we've already seen back in Ecclesiastes 10:19 that silver answers all things. Silver answers all things. And here he pops up in the middle of what he says he's going to do, the shaking of the nations, reminding us that silver and gold belong to Yahweh. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about it because I grew up without money. And you did too, most likely, unless you're a whole lot older than me. When I started working for money back in the early 70s, paper route, mowing lawns, and then working as some cleaning service for a department store once or twice a week. There was money back then. We even had silver certificates. I think I have one at home. But we don't have any money at this point. I don't know whether you understand the whole concept of the deep state, the Illuminati, the globalists. I mean, you can give them different names, very Luciferian, that has been around for years. Part of their strategy was to take away the money. And in, I think it was 1971, Nixon took our dollar off the gold standard. You could no longer take The certificates that you had that were issued by the government, you could no longer take them in and get gold or silver for them. And then they continue to print what has been called fiat money, credit. It's worth nothing. It's worth nothing. But thank God, this scripture tells us God's going to restore the wealth. And it's going to be real wealth. It's going to be God's money. So the point I want to make today is that silver and gold are God's money. And He's bringing it back. It's funny, for all the years that I've lived, we've dealt with what people call inflation. And basically it's just been a point of conversation for the average person. We've talk about the price of gasoline. When I first started driving a car, gas was 25 cents a gallon, and now it's almost $4 a gallon, $4. It got up over $4, but now it's down around $3 a gallon. Oh, that's crazy. A gallon of milk cost this, and now it costs that. It's like we weren't upset, and we didn't see that as any kind of clue that we didn't have money. And as long as they printed more trash cash, fiat money, whatever, as long as they just kept cranking it out, we had to take more of it to spend on our gasoline. When we go back to a gold-backed currency, there won't be any inflation. In fact, prices, if we had our money all through those years, or now we're going to, prices would go down on things as we get more efficient and in producing stuff. It's going to cost less to make it. The reason prices are going up is because they keep printing more fiat money, trash cash, and we have to come up with more of it to pay for the same item. 100 years ago, a $20 gold piece, you could take that and go into the nicest clothing store in town and buy the very best suit in town with a $20 gold piece. Today, you could take a $20 gold piece and go into a really nice clothing store and buy the nicest suit in town. So what has changed? Inflation doesn't affect gold or silver. It affects fiat money. And that's why we have it, inflation. So look at these verses, pray about them, thank God for them. There is a shaking going on or coming in the near future that's going to shake. He says, once more, I will shake heaven and earth, the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, and they shall come to the desire of all nations, and I will fill this temple with glory, says Yahweh of hosts. So I'm looking forward to having money. And if you've got extra trash cash laying around, you might want to exchange it right now for gold and or silver. But when we are transitioned over to gold and silver as our money again, God's money, it's going to be a glorious time on this earth. Thanks for listening to me today, and you have a great day.